So this is a follow-up to the video that I made about pushing. And in that video, I talked a lot about the history of pushing, the mechanics of anatomy, and just different aspects of birth from a more analytical standpoint. But in this video, I want to address something that really deeply bothers me, and I think bothers a lot of other women and birth workers, that may really catch you off guard if you've never had a baby before. In the typical birth that you see in a hospital, when a woman is ready to push her baby out, or when she's been told that she's ready to push her baby out, she has to get up on the bed. Normally the lights are turned on, bright lights, and she could be either fully naked or naked from the waist down. Now, when pushing starts to happen, a lot more people come into the room. You've got students who are learning, if it's a teaching hospital, or you've got the baby nurse and then the specialized baby nurse and all these other people that are coming into the space. You could go from having one medical professional in the room to 5, sometimes even 7, 8. The numbers can get up there. And a lot of people don't realize that if you choose, even if you're not at a teaching hospital, but especially if you choose to be at a teaching hospital, you will be exposed to so many people that you don't personally know. And the thought of that, it may sound okay in the beginning, but I've witnessed several women who have been in the hospital, they've been exposed, they've got this bright light shining on their vulva, and even after the baby is born, when they're getting sutured, they're just spread eagle in the middle of the room with all these people walking around, chatting about various different things. And it can be a very uncomfortable, sometimes awkward, sometimes triggering experience.
I just want to note here that not every birthing person is going to feel this way or has felt this way before. So I am speaking to a specific group of people, and I know that our culture historically has frowned upon women who overly expose their bodies. And for that, there might be some justification around why you may feel uncomfortable with people looking at your genitals and being exposed. But for those people who don't feel uncomfortable, that's perfectly fine too. That's not to say anything about your character or who you are as a person. I'm just specifically speaking to people who have felt this, or precautionarily speaking to people just in case they find themselves in this situation and they then understand why they feel this way.
And this is just a warning that if you have experienced something where you may have certain triggers, if you have experienced something where you have kind of triggers surrounding your sexual life or your reproductive health or any of those things, sometimes being in that vulnerable spread eagle position where 5-10 people can see your body, see your root chakra, see your vulva, it can really be awkward. And I specifically remember I was with a client working as a doula, and there's always this curtain that is in front of hospital room doors, so that when you open the door, there's a curtain, and essentially when you open the door, everybody won't see you. And I remember this curtain, there were so many people coming in and out that the curtain kept getting flung, and finally the curtain was kind of like halfway pulled back. And someone else walked into the room, and the client looked at me like, well, the whole hospital is just, seeing my vagina. And I could tell that the comment was like a joke, but it was also like, this is weird. And so I rushed over and tried to close everything. And, it's just something that I feel is something that we take as normal, but I don't think it's normal at all. So just something to be cognizant of when you're processing your birth. there are certain things that you may not realize have an impact on you. You may not realize affects you until someone else brings it up or someone else reflects on it. And this is another example of how, we don't really see birth as something that is sacred. We kind of see it as just like this mechanical process, and like, okay, like you birth your baby, like, you're exposed, it's fine, whatever. We see a million vaginas every day. But that energy of just not giving someone that privacy during such a sacred time, it can really affect you mentally and emotionally during your postpartum period. Another thing I want to touch on is this lack of trust. So I see this with midwives and I see this with doctors, and for this idea that we need to check the woman before she starts pushing. We need to make sure that, she is 10 centimeters and then she can start pushing. This lack of trusting that the woman's body knows when to push. It knows how to push. It gets totally pushed off to the side, and all of that trust gets put into the provider's hands to say, well, we know we can hear her pushing and that she's saying that she has this urge to bear down and she's got all this pressure, but it's not really real until someone checks to see if it's real. And that, during the birthing process, right when you were being initiated into motherhood, I think that has a huge impact on how mothers can or cannot trust their own instincts when they're raising their babies. There's so many mothers in these forums who are like, should I do this? Should I do that? I feel like I should do this, but maybe I shouldn't. And the intuition is totally cut off. There's absolutely no connection to the intuition. And I think part of this has to do with the way that we're birthing our babies. Birth is something that is such an intuitive process, and for some people, they can be very tuned into what's happening. But if you give up that power and say, I need the doctor to clear me before everything, and even though I had this feeling, I gotta check it with the provider first, it gives up all of that internal intuitive power. And I'm not saying that we don't need doctors or that we shouldn't trust doctors. That's not the point at all. The point is we have to trust ourselves first. Because then later on, when we have to make those decisions when we're in motherhood, there is no manual. There is no person that is going to clear us to do that or do this, right? We have to at some point be able to rely on our own intuition and trust ourselves. So if you agree with this, or you feel that your birthing process affected your journey into motherhood, let me know down below. Let's have a conversation about this, because birth is not just a mechanical process of hormones and muscles and bones. It's also a very spiritual and energetic process where a lot of different things are happening, and I want to be able to talk about this more often. All right, I'll see y'all in the next video.